Hey guys, welcome to another league review. This is DPSI. Today we're going to go over, just like every other league review, we're going to start at the 700s rating, then go up to the 800s, 900s, 1000s, 110s, 120s, 130s, and 140s. So, to start us off, we have this game here in the 700s range. So here we have the champion Disco Dave versus Jumblies. Disco Dave has been featured before for his pretty unorthodox playstyle, which sometimes works out for him. So we'll see what happens here. Um, let's see. I don't really know who Jumblies is. Let's see, so Jumblies is currently in the basement at 700 rating, nearly 100 games played. So it looks like Disco Dave and Jumblies are somewhere around the same level of experience. We have Olaf into Andy. Now, the good thing about this matchup for Andy, even though he's sort of considered a tier below Olaf, is that he can heal off the Winter Storm with Hyper Repair with just his CO power. So it's possible to like Hyper Repair, then later Hyper Upgrade, and then have another Hyper Repair ready for the second Winter Storm. So that's nice. So the map here is Brush with Death. It's kind of a confusing one for beginners because you have 4 bases. You have this island base, and you have 1, 2, 3. And then you also have missiles locking your airport, so that's kind of interesting. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Okay, so Jumblies goes for the base first, but skips an infantry build. Maybe he just missed this base, because you don't usually want to skip infantry builds early on. So Disco Dave skips an infantry build up top here where you could get a port earlier, so it's a little bit of missed income. Okay, so now Jumblies builds an infantry out of this base this time around. Yeah, it looks like he just forgot to build last time because he's not. Doesn't look like he's saving up for anything. So Disco Dave skips his base, which is a classic Disco Dave strat. We'll see how it works for him this time. And he builds an infantry here, going for the port next turn, but it's a day late. Otherwise, Disco Dave's capture phase down here looks reasonable. So let's see. He's still pretty. Disco Dave is still pretty far away from capturing this base, which is not a good thing we normally think. But I don't know. It's when it's beginners playing, you can. Well, sometimes you can try a lot of different stuff and it'll work out. Like I said before, the main issue with skipping your base is that it slows down the capture of these cities, and that also you don't get to build out of it as early, so you get fewer units early on. And it turns out that the amount of units that you have is like a good indicator of how strong your army is. It's not everything to the like. There's also how much value your army is worth and stuff, but unit count is like a pretty good indicator of how you're doing compared to your opponent. Let's see, so Disco Dave. So it looks like both guys have built tanks out of their 2-base side. So it looks like Jumblies is spamming infantry out of this base. Most people stop building unless most people stop building infantry out of this base just because, like, if you build a black boat and like continuously land infantry, it's hard to make it work. You have to build some mech too in order to take control of the side here, which again is kind of hard to do. But given that Disco Dave hasn't really developed in this corner at all, these infantry might be able to get the comm tower and maybe someday dream of taking this base. So yeah, maybe a black boat and a mech could actually score some points over here. All right, so Disco Dave advancing with his tank, but skips another 2 builds. He actually doesn't build anything. Okay. So yeah, I'd recommend against doing that. It's better to just spam out infantry. Okay, so it looks like Disco Dave goes for a small attack around here. Looks like he's actually going for his port. Super early rocket, so maybe the idea is to free up the airport from the missile lock. We'll see what Disco Dave does. And here's the black boat drop that I was talking about. It looks like Disco Dave is going to capture his base just in time, so it'll work out for Disco Dave here. Hmm. So this rocket isn't cannot hit the missile this turn. It could have just gone to this square. I don't want to be able to hit the missile. So let's see. I'm not sure what Disco Dave has in mind for this rocket build. Okay, so the rocket is going down next to this pipe seam. Um, I guess it's kind of a defensive rocket that you can use to prevent Jumblies from advancing on this front, at least on this side right here. And then in the meantime, it can also shoot down the missile, so that's nice. Oh, it looks like Disco Dave is going for a cheeky HQ capture, but it's only with a 2 HP infantry, so it's not too threatening right now. Yeah, and then it looks like Jumblies is going to get this comm tower, but he's not going to be able to hold it in the long run, I think. As long as Disco Dave keeps building infantry and anti-air out of this base, he'll be okay. Or tanks, you know. Oh no. Okay, so Disco Dave kills an infantry, but it looks like he's going to need a mech shot for it, which is not great. So Disco Dave, I think, is in trouble because he's got 4 tanks up against his 3 tanks, and it's the four tank person's turn. His rocket isn't doing much. The B-copter is going to be nice and helpful pretty soon. And then he also attacked into a mech, which is going to eat a tank shot, but with mech backup. So I don't think this is a very good trade, although it's kind of hard to see why it's not great, unless you like go and like see, unless you like calculate it out. So I don't think this is going to work out for Disco Dave. Okay, so actually this tank can attack this tank from the city pretty much for free. And this recon can hit this infantry from the forest for free, which is so Disco Dave has a few outs here. And he does just that. So yeah, good job by Disco Dave recognizing that he can attack in those 2 spots. It's a little ugly down here, but it should be fine. There's just infantry coming, so the tank will be okay. This double attack, yeah, it works. I would have preferred to see the tank go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 onto the city, but it should be okay. Okay, here comes Olaf's Blizzard, which actually opens up the possibility to hyper upgrade to Super CO power. Although he actually loses a bunch of units. Yeah, so he'll have to work in order to make hyper upgrade be a good trade for him. In order to be like for a good power for him, because he just doesn't have that many wounded units right now. Okay, so he Super CO powers anyway. And a mega tank out of this one base, which actually is like a pretty solid build because, I mean, okay, it is skipping infantry builds everywhere, which is not great, but the mega tank will definitely stop this tank flow from overrunning this side. Also, nice job getting on the airport. Um, so the rocket will have to move in order for the tank to hit the infantry. Okay, so Jumblies builds a missile from this base. Um, that must be in response to this B-copter build. I think anti-air is the better thing to build here, just so it keeps the B-copter from hitting this island. Because yeah, I don't see how this missile is gonna really cover this area without the missile being exposed from one side or another. Okay, here comes another Olaf CO power. Um, yeah, Olaf CO powers. I guess somewhere I've seen them used before against Andy, where you just like take advantage of the snow to like stretch their forces thin. In this case, it's not particularly um, attractive to me to use CO power because he's not really like taking advantage of the slowed speed that much. But yeah, that idea has I've seen it work before. So yeah, Disco Dave is doing the right thing on this one base side, which is to build heavy tanks that Jumblees hasn't really done much to counter so far. I mean, the artillery will work against the medium tank, but the mega tank is kind of still doesn't have a counter on the field. Like the best thing to build would be something like a bomber, but then Disco Dave already has an anti-air ready to go. So yeah, this is like actually looking better and better for Dave on the lower left. Okay, so there were two big moves that happened. Okay, getting confused. Okay, so Disco Dave is taking back his tower, so he'll be back up to two towers versus two towers instead of three versus one. Uh, So Jumbly is making like a HQ push while attacking the artillery here. I'm not sure that's going to work out for him. There's just a little bit too much firepower for Disco Dave here. There's also a nasty tactic for Disco. Well, a nasty attack for Disco Dave. He can Oko. He can take this medium tank, kill that infantry, and then move the mega tank in between the artillery and just start pounding away. So that's not a great. That's kind of a flimsy attack by Jumblies on both fronts. So yeah, indeed, Disco Dave gets back his HQ, plants a tank on top of it, and Jumblies looks like he's in trouble. His B copter is countered by two anti-air. So yeah, pretty good look for Disco Dave right now. He didn't find the artillery attack though, but I don't think it matters because he can get another nasty one off this turn. I think. Because yeah, Disco Dave just needs to realize in the bottom left that he can that if he jumps on the artilleries, then there's nothing that can stop his medium tank and mega tank. Okay, here comes another Blizzard with Disco Dave Super CO power on deck. Looks like he's going to get some huge repairs, some very helpful repairs with his next turn. Oh, okay. Looks like he killed the anti-air. Sorry, the artillery. This continues my issue saying anti-air instead of artillery. It's just like I keep making that mistake. Okay, anyways. Okay, so Disco Dave sees the attack on the artillery here. So yeah, good job by Disco Dave. Looks like looks like Disco Dave is doing pretty well on both fronts, although he is pretty far behind in unit value. And I mean, basically, what you can think about instead of like when you think about all these unit skips is like, would you rather have this one tank or would you rather have 7 infantry? And the answer is almost always going to be 7 infantry. Like 3 infantry here plus 4 infantry up here. All of a sudden, like Disco Dave is in a much better spot. This tank isn't doing that much for him right now. Okay, so another solo attacking turn by Disco Dave in the bottom left. On the top here, these two B copters are uncontested. So it looks like Jumblies took advantage of the low mega tank um, not fuel, ammo, and got some free tank shots off. But it's going to repair and then kill everything. So it can kill the tank, kill the infantry, medium tank. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, scratch that. The medium tank would be able to hit. So if Jumblies actually saves up for a Super CO power and then does a bunch of damage during his Super CO, wait, did he just delete something? Did he just delete an anti-air? Okay. All right then. All right. So Jumblies Jumbly's turn. He gets like a initiating shot on a medium tank, but I don't think it's that much damage. Yeah, Disco Dave is looking pretty good here. He just needs to start capturing properties so that he can actually get some income lead for his trouble. Okay, here comes Winter Fury. But crucially, he doesn't kill this medium tank, so Hyper Upgrade is going to bring it back up to 7 HP or 6 HP. Yeah. Disco Dave is about to go in this turn, I think. Okay, yeah, so Disco Dave does a lot of damage here. Um, Looking good, capturing properties, more properties on the way. This base is in pretty serious trouble with a rocket coming in to lock it in a few turns if he can trade evenly. Yeah, looks pretty good for decently good for our boy Dave. He actually has a unit count advantage for the first time in quite a while. Okay, and Jumbly's resigns. So yeah, GG, Disco Dave wins the game. So that's good. We haven't seen a Disco Dave. I think we've featured Disco Dave at least maybe twice, at least once. And so far, he doesn't have a winning record on the Global League review. So the fact that he does now is a good thing. So yeah, good job to Disco Dave. And yeah, there's hope for like ridiculous strats, especially especially like against more beginning players. You can try weird things, and sometimes they work out. So yeah, experiment and learn new stuff.